What up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back here for another episode of the Friday Night Movie Club, and we're back to doing theatrical releases, movies that are out in theaters right now. And I think we got a good one this week. We got a pretty solid film in Argylle that we're all going to review and say very good things about throughout the course of the show. I can see it in your face. You guys love this movie. But before we get started here, let's go ahead and introduce our guys joining us here on the show here tonight. We have our good buddy Rick Aragorn back with us again. What are you doing, Rick?
Well, I'm munching on some things and contemplating.
Still, it's been like 10 minutes.
I'm a slow eater.
How long does it take to eat?
You'd be surprised. I'm a slow eater, and I'm also contemplating filing to run for District 7.
Well, that's one thing definitely you have going for you, slow. And joining us here from a new angle here, Mr. Rob Mata. How you doing there, Rob?
I'm doing good. I've had better weeks in terms of my my life going well, but no, it's all things considered, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had an opportunity kind of, blow up in my face earlier this week, and I'm still trying to deal with, the constant battle of rejection off of that. So, it's not been a good week, but hey, at least we had a good movie that, bring all our spirits up here. I'm really glad this movie came at just the right time. Definitely won't be no pent-up anger involved in this film whatsoever.
A delightful frolic. A delightful romp.
We are here live on YouTube, Rumble, and on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We're here tonight. We already got some people trickling in. Cole Classic Cage listening to us talk about this film here tonight. And a couple other things going on. I know literally right before we went live here, apparently Pro Wrestling Twitter is having another meltdown. And no, it's not Vince McMahon related. It's apparently The Rock is coming back and he's going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So that's the story. And for now, and I'm pretty sure there'll be very, very reasonable responses to that as time goes on here. But we're not starting off tonight talking about pro wrestling. We have to talk about the biggest story of the day, and that is the death of Carl Weathers, who passed away earlier today at the age of 76. I mean, like I said, I can't even name all the things that Carl Weathers has been in. You've seen him in something, right? Whether it's Rocky, Star Wars, whether it's not Billy Madison, was it
Happy Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, I mean, Predator. I mean, there's a number of things that you've seen this guy. He's pretty much been beloved in everything that he was in today. But this comes from Variety. Apollo Creed actor died at the age of 76 today. Like I said, Predator, Happy Gilmore. He said he's won daytime Emmys for the role in the film Mandalorian. I'm tongue-tied today. And then, like I said, you see him in Toy Story 4. They just give him like a list of things that he's been in. He's been great in pretty much everything that you've seen him in. So this is kind of a bummer here today. Like I said, born in 1984, played a little bit of professional football with the Oakland Raiders at the time. Didn't pan out very well, but hey, did launch a pretty successful acting career, which he's been in for quite some time. So this is just kind of a, like I said, a bummer of a news. 76. So I mean, he's not too old, not too young at the same time as well. But like I said, this is kind of the news that we got broken here too a little bit earlier tonight. I know Sylvester Stallone just put out something on his social media regarding this. See if I can pop this one up here just real quick. This is Sly here. Yeah, let's jump over to X. Let's see if this video actually holds up. Today it is X for once in a while. Yeah, let's listen to this.
Today is an incredibly sad day for me. I mean, I'm so torn up, I can't even tell you. I'm just trying to hold it in because Carl Weathers was such an integral part of my life, my success, everything about it. I give him incredible credit and kudos because when he walked into that room and I saw him for the first time, I saw greatness, but I didn't realize how great. I never could have accomplished what we did with Rocky without him. He was absolutely brilliant. His voice, his size, his power, his athletic ability, but more importantly, his heart, his soul. It's a horrible loss. And I'm standing here in front of this painting because it was probably the last moment we were ever in the ring together, and I'll never forget it. He was magic. And I was so fortunate to be part of his life. So, Apollo, keep punching.
That just got posted a couple hours ago here on social media. So yeah, like I said, there's been so many people coming out there doing tributes. I know a lot of people were passing along Gina Carano's tribute not too long ago. So I'm just gonna start this one off with you, Rick. What's kind of your thoughts generally on Carl Weathers passing away and his long story career?
Well, I think for those people who know him best from the Rocky films, it takes a great amount of skill to play someone who's supposed to be, I guess, the villain, but who's actually quite likable and who isn't a terrible person. Apollo Creed is not a terrible person. He's not a terrible character. He's not two-dimensional. He also has his moments of doubt, and eventually he grew to be a friend and someone who would rally him. So you're right. He's absolutely beloved, not just for that. He had Predator. He had a whole new generation with Happy Gilmore. When I saw it, I was surprised. Like, oh my gosh, it's Apollo Creed. To create that kind of character and to be part of a film that is so beloved, it's a great legacy for him. So it's sad. I know when I told my my manager who loved the Rocky movies, yeah, she got a little emotional because a lot of people attach great passion for Rocky and anything Rocky. So it's sad, but all I can say is he gave us a wonderful body of work, and we appreciate it.
Rob, what is kind of your thoughts on Carl Weathers?
Yeah, I certainly grew up with him in the Rocky movies, and so he was sort of just that kind of one thing for me. Even in the Predator, he was in Predator, great movie. I more associate with him with his comedic roles, like Happy Gilmore. He was in Arrested Development, playing himself in the most, like the most ridiculous sort of Hollywood cheapskate way, which, it's like if you knew the guy, if you knew how generous he was and how much his co-stars loved him, it was always more of like an inside joke. But he was a multifaceted, multi-talented actor, performer, played in the NFL, and he was always game. You always believed in the roles that he was in, whether it was, as a commando in the Predator movie, whether it was it's Apollo Creed. And I can say this, the movies lost something when his character went out in the fourth one. So, I mean, I just think that overall he was a great performer. He was well loved by co-stars. remembered fondly. I mean, you've just seen sort of outpouring of support, which is not necessarily the case every time, you know, someone passes away that was famous or worked in Hollywood. So I think it sucks. It's a tragedy. I think a guy that was in that good a shape and he was working consistently, it just sucks. You know what I mean? I kind of feel similar. I mean, I'm sure he's more beloved than Lance Riddick, but Lance Riddick was another big loss last year. That was kind of similar for me.
Yeah, like I said, it sucks. I mean, he's such a likable guy. Like I said, he's been in so many iconic movies that you can think of. He's pretty much been a key figure in almost like everything that you can imagine. And it's funny, a couple years ago, we were actually it was an intro for the Chiefs and the Raiders game, and I think it was the one like during COVID. So I'm not sure they had opened up the Vegas arena just yet. But he had actually did the voiceover like to the Raiders game. It was actually like a really cool voiceover. I couldn't find it before I had chance to go live on here, so I'll have to do some digging and maybe do it later on next week. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, look, we all know that, you know, once people get up there in age, you know, that their time can be due, and it like sucks. But I mean, hey, look, this guy had a very long life, had a great, amazing career at the end of the day. So it's definitely, you know, a bit of a bummer for a lot of people. But I mean, you know, he did quite a lot in his lifetime, and a lot that he should be proud of. So I mean, like I said, look at it at the end of the day, it's kind of more of like a celebration of life than, you know, just being, oh man, I can't believe that guy died. Like, he didn't die under any tragic circumstances or anything like that, as we've seen for so many others. So I would give that up. What you gonna say, Rick?
Well, no, just real quick. You think he's going to be remembered one generation with Apollo Creed, another generation with Predator, another generation with Mandalorian. So his career has really spanned so many decades, and each particular generation is going to have a specific Carl Weathers performance or character that they're going to always remember and embrace. And again, that's a credit to his legacy.
And I mean, it's funny that we're talking about Carl Weathers. I remember him pretty fondly in Arrested Development, which was, of course, made by what is it, Imagine Entertainment, which is Ron Howard and Brian Grazer's company, and another Howard we're going to be talking about later, who is just terrible. But I try to tie all that together. But no, like he was great. He was great in Arrested Development. I'm glad, you know, that Ron Howard used him for that, because he literally could have used a myriad of different people kind of playing themselves, making fun of themselves. And Carl Weathers was surprisingly really good at comedy too.
Yeah, definitely. And it was let's go say he was in he keep like on Happy Gilmore. I don't know why all the Adam Sandler movies, that's the one I keep blanking on the most, but he was in that movie. You might remember a really bad movie in the 2000s called The Comebacks, where he actually played the villain in that movie too. That may have been over. If you see the box office number, nobody saw this movie, but it was a whole bunch. It was basically like one of those like parody movies that we got like the 2000s and stuff, where it's like it was so bad, but they just kept producing them for some weird reason. That's probably part of the reason that killed comedy, by the way. But I remember him being in that film, and I remember they actually had him get up in his old like Oakland Raiders like uniform, get up in that film to try to like pay some homage there to his football career. But it's like everything else about that movie was just terrible. But like I say, he tends to be probably the best parts of a lot of bad movies. So I'll give him credit for. So
Yeah, I mean, even when you saw Rocky 4 and you saw Apollo die, yeah, I know there were people in the audience who were shocked and just very sad just with the character dying. Again, it's a credit to how well he created the character.
yep. So, like I said, Carl Weathers, rest in peace, passed away at the age of 76. Just want to give a little bit of acknowledgement to that here. I have a
And
couple
I
more.
just real quick,
Oh,
every time we sign off and I do my little wave, that's literally the Carl Weathers wave from the end of Happy Gilmore. So it's just very, it's kind of, it's, you know, it is one of those kind of bittersweet things where it's like, yeah, he led a great life. He had a lot of good performances. But it's still, you know, still sucks to lose somebody that, you know, that was there in a lot of key movies and TV shows you enjoyed throughout the years.
yep. This is another interesting story here with Jim Carrey. So Jim Carrey has been, let's be honest, Jim Carrey has been teasing leaving Hollywood for about 10 years or so here, and he's still kind of floating around. And this is another one I guess took some people by surprise because he came back and I mean they officially announced that he's going to be playing the role of Robotnik in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which doesn't really surprise me too much. And there's a couple of things going with this. If you recall, this has to be well over 10 years now when they were doing the promotion for Kick-Ass 2, and he was supposed to play I think he did play a role in that film, but that was right before the Sandy Hook shootings. And obviously, you know, say what you have about the Sandy Hook coverage and the whole thing about that, but you can tell that did have a very strong impact on Jim Carrey's life, because he was saying like right after the fact, hey, look, I just don't feel comfortable promoting this movie. It's like nothing against anyone who worked on it, but I just not comfortable with this line of violence given what just happened here. And he kind of took a break from Hollywood for like a large period of time there. And it wasn't until they brought him back into the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise where it's like, okay, I can do something kind of for like the kids, correct, a younger audience. So maybe this is kind of like my thread to like keep me around. But if you look at, you know, his filmography over the last few years, it's like he really has tried, I guess, to find a way to get out of the business. But you know, like I said, it seems like the success of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies is keeping him in. He just announced here that he's going to be back for a third movie. He will reprise his role in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. He was in obviously the second one, defeated in the towards the end with, you know, the giant egg robot, as we all very infamous from the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 game. So of course, Sonic the Hedgehog has been a very successful franchise over the last couple of years for Paramount. It's been, like I said, $870 million out of 2 films so far. It's got a lot of positive fan feedback, even though, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, the second one wasn't really as good as the first one. There was still kind of some rough edges about that second movie, but the first one was good enough. I mean, obviously, they get credit for listening to the fans and cleaning up that design, that awful design that they had in the first trailer there. There's like, yeah, we can't release a movie like that, especially if we're putting this much money into it. But I said this seems like, you know, Carrey one of Carrey's few roles that he's actually willing to do here to I keep him his career afloat at this point. Like I said, if you've heard some of the things that he says, he really wanted to step away and not do as much as, you know, the over the top method acting that he's been used to doing over the past 20 years or so, or 30 years. I guess you're going to go back even further than that, and kind of the more depressing parts of the business. So, what's kind of just your general thoughts on Jim Carrey essentially finding the life to stay around for this Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie? I'll start with Rob here.
Yeah, I was convinced when I saw that Man in the Moon documentary about the making of that movie and his whole like method actor shit. I was just like, okay, so Jim Carrey actually is insane. He's actually a crazy person. And maybe that's what that requires, the way he, you know, used to jerk his body and all the physical comedy that went with it. There have been roles he's done that I've really liked, performances he's given that I thought were excellent. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if it was the whole Jenny McCarthy breakup and being against vaccines at a certain point, but
Yeah.
you know,
Didn't
I
his
had
like girlfriend pass away or commit suicide too? Was that
something.
like a big thing like that?
Yeah, I remember that. So you know, I don't know. Maybe he's just reached the end of his limit. He certainly has enough money to retire. So I don't know why, if he's really kind of done with acting, why he'd come back for the third Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Maybe it's to make kids happy. Who knows? He does seem like a strange guy.
A little bit of a weirdo.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I've heard good things from fans of the franchise who said that the Sonic the Hedgehog movies are actually okay. If and when I have to see this third movie, I have not seen the previous 2, so I'm going to be pretty lost. But you know, hey, again, it's just like, okay, apparently we can't say no to a certain number. So maybe they offered him a lot of money and that's why he's coming out. Who knows?
And yeah, just a quick correction here. So outside of Kick-Ass 2, and there was the other film Dumb and Dumber 2, but he had already filmed that by the time Kick-Ass 2 had came out. So literally the only thing that he's actually been in movie-wise in the last 10 years have been the Sonic the Hedgehog films. I think it's the fact that it is a franchise that has a big, you know, family audience. It's something like draws him back. Like I said, I think looking at what happened at Sandy Hook had a pretty profound emotional effect on him, and I think it was just the idea of like what happened to those kids that kind of like broke him. So in this way, I mean, coming back for Sonic is kind of like I say therapeutic for him a little bit to kind of like give back more to that family audience, kind of spread a little bit more joy rather than do the like I said the crazy insane stuff that he was doing like beforehand, a little more violent over the top stuff. Rick, what's your thoughts on Jim Carrey's I guess career really just the last few years?
Yeah, well, I never saw any of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I really don't think I'm the target audience. It's nice to see that he's finding a role that he could sink his teeth in and bring some joy if he's gone through some issues. I do remember when he went away, he shifted from those comedies that he was really known for, even from In Living Color, down to when he was trying to do very dramatic parts, like was it the number 23, which did not
Yeah.
go over well. And I know he did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I've never seen, and I might
Really?
go see. Yeah, I've never seen it.
Okay.
It's showing in local theaters here, and I might also see Man on the Moon, which that was, I guess, his efforts to be more dramatic. And then I think it kind of went downhill with The Majestic, which was I did again not see it, but was
You're
poorly
kind of going
received.
backwards, but yeah,
Yeah,
because the number
well,
23 came after all these movies.
oh my
But
god, yeah. Well, he was kind of trying to do more drama and be more serious, and it didn't really pan out. So this is kind of a return to form for him, and I wish him well. But it's interesting. I think he tried to do those dramatic parts. The audiences weren't there for it, and now he's, I guess, make something of a comeback in more humorous things, which are not as insane as some of the other things like Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura, but it's a little more family friendly, I guess. So good for him. And if he wants to keep working, bless him for wanting to work, and in a film that people won't generally be intimidated to go see because the people there know their target audience and don't want to try to insult them. And by the way, one more thing, I do like both REM songs, Man on the Moon and The Great Beyond from Man on the Moon, which should have been nominated, but that's just me. But then I love REM, so there's that.
Yeah, see, I knew that she had committed suicide. I didn't know that was the reason. Yeah, that was the reason. And oof. I mean, yeah, I can definitely see that having a pretty profound impact on somebody. And that's probably why you should tell people what you have before you sleep with them. I mean, that would be one way to avoid that whole situation. And yeah, like I said, the first Sonic movie was a pretty decent film. I think it was a solid like 3.5 out of 5 film. The second one, I think they played way too much on like the bonehead comedy, especially with like the whole angle with like the sister. It was like a complete waste of time. So I do think the second one was a pretty big step down. But like I said, it's making money, so it's going to get a third one. They got enough Sonic the Hedgehog lore to go off of to make a couple more of these. And as long as there's Sonic fans out there, I mean, he is like the second biggest video game mascot of all time. So it's not like there's a shortage of Sonic the Hedgehog fans out there to keep producing more of this stuff. So this is the direction they're going to go to. It's like, hey, I just say go for it. So. And then I guess our third little short story here before we go ahead and get onto the film here is that Melissa Barbarera has been an absolute nightmare for Hollywood, and apparently she's continuing to be a nightmare because she's going all in on the whole pro-Palestine thing. And I think by now everyone knows exactly what's going on with Palestine and Israel. So it's no real surprise that in Hollywood there's a little bit of an ire towards anyone who's supporting Palestine during this time at the moment. And of course she's going, I guess, doubling down now. She was already fired from the Scream franchise earlier last year because she supported Palestine after the whole conflict and the attack that happened in Israel. She got fired. Then Jenna Ortega, who also supports Palestine, by the way, but just very quietly, left the project shortly afterwards. So I have no idea what they're doing with Scream. And then here we are a few months later, and apparently she put out a Instagram link in her bio that was to donate money for the United Nations Relief Fund and Works Agency for Palestine refugees near excuse me, near the bank and all the martyrs in Gaza and on the West Bank. So Yeah, not going over very well in a place like Hollywood. I'm a little bit surprised that this didn't exactly work out here. It seems like she's gonna go all in and tank her career, whether intentionally or unintentionally here. This is the hill that she has decided that she's gonna die on, and as an Hispanic who has absolutely nothing to gain in the conflict herself, I figured this is a pretty good hill for her to drown out is. Like I said, Barbarella, whatever. She's fired. She's gonna be blacklisted soon. No one's gonna care how to
Herrera.
pronounce. No one is caring how to
Not gonna
pronounce
work
her
here
name.
anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, what is your thoughts on this actress here? Who, keep in mind, she does have a new film coming out. I'm not sure if we talked about it. I actually brought this up in our group chat. It was the one called that was something about like a ballerina vampire. I'm pretty sure you guys may have seen the previews of this movie. For some of the other, have you seen this movie yet?
No.
Nope.
They've showed it a couple of times, the screenings I've been to the last few minutes. The whole idea here is that a group of people are supposed to, I guess, kidnap a daughter of some wealthy person, and it turns out she's a vampire, and she just starts like hunting and killing all the people who are trapped there for 24 hours. And she's like the star, like in the film. So I guess they're not going to be able to promote that film very much here. She's going all in on our anti-Israel brigade. But Rob, what are your takes on Miss Melissa here?
Yeah,
Keep in mind, from Mexico, has no ties to either Israel or Palestine.
Okay, so as somebody that is pretty critical of the Israeli government, I have to say that this is a terrible, terrible decision. Okay, look, you can listen. You can know that something is true, or even believe it, and not be spouting your fucking mouth off about it. Okay, like there are ways to go about this without making yourself a target. And so when she has no jobs available, when all the work is dried up because she's alienated everybody she might work with, who are connected, she's only going to have herself to blame. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like I understand it feels good to quote unquote feel like you're on the right side of history and being against oppression, even if there's not much evidence to support your claims. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, I get it. It feels good. You want to be on, the right side of history, but you're going to lose out on all these jobs. You're going to, you're going to be basically blacklisted, in the industry. So, and granted, this girl is not that talented anyway. It's not like she's blowing people away with her performances or, she's literally the final girl. Do you know, that's basic, like back in the day, it wasn't something to be sought after to be in horror movies. Like it's very close to porn. You know what I mean? Like back at a certain point, that's kind of how horror movies were perceived largely by society, that they're trash. They're tawdry things. Now that's changed a little bit, but not much. You know what I'm saying? So she's not doing anything but digging herself an even deeper grave.
No, not at all. Rick, what's your thoughts on Miss Barbarella?
All right. Well, I think just asking people to contribute to the UN for anything is against my principles, as I don't think we need the UN. It's just a slush fund for people, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I have no interest in the UN. I'm not exactly sure why she has decided to not just support this particular cause and make it her cause, but to use terms like martyr. I mean, you could get away with that, I suppose, if you were a Muslim, but I don't believe she is. So why is she deciding to refer to these people as martyrs and just join in on this? She's not that well known. I mean, really, what outside the Scream movies, which I've not seen, like what else has she done?
This is exactly what I was gonna say. In all honesty, like her career was just beginning to go on an uptick with the Scream movies because, like I said, and I think that probably had more to do with Jenna Ortega than her, because obviously Ortega is more well known than she is. But there was at least getting something there. And I talk about the movie that was coming out here in a couple of weeks. That was supposed to be like a big thing for her too. But like I said, she's essentially throwing that all away by angering her bosses, who are on the complete opposite side of a conflict in the Middle East. That, as someone who's born in Mexico, is a Mexican-born actress, I just don't know why this is the hill that you decide to need to die on. It's like, no, we need to support the people of Palestine, but at the same time, let's just call it out what it is. this is Hollywood's own fault because you guys are the ones who have crafted this for so many years. You've crafted this whole thing of white people bad, brown people good, and this is what the people in your industry have essentially have adopted here. So when this conflict happens in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine, they're not looking at this from like a religious perspective. They're not looking at this as Muslims versus Jews, which is what it actually is. They're looking at it as, oh, white oppressor versus brown oppressed. That's all they're looking at it, and this is why they're going all in on the Palestine side. And then all the people running Hollywood, all the bosses there are clearly on the side of Israel. But guess what? You essentially created your own enemy here in this story. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to feel bad for anyone in this scenario here. All I have to say is that both of you guys screwed yourselves, and now you have to deal with the fallout of what this whole situation has become here. So that's just kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, just don't say anything. Like
Mhm.
if it cannot benefit you, shut your mouth. Just this is something, granted, that my generation might have learned by now, millennials. But I said might because I kind of understand this, but you know, generationally, good luck. But it's like if it doesn't help you, shut the fuck up. You don't need, and this is coming from somebody that's on Twitter all day saying all sorts of inflammatory shit because I love being you know,
A dick.
yeah, exactly. So
You
but
are
I
an instigator,
understand,
sir.
but I understand what, like, that, you know, if somebody wants to send me social justice literature, you know, yes, my address is out there. You can find it. But it's like, I don't think that ideas or words or even Twitter is, you know, what you say online is not real. He's out there in public saying this shit. So it's just like, just be quiet. It's not helping you. You're not doing yourself any favors.
Yeah, I back up what Rob said about, you know, silence is golden. As my mom used to say, you know, calladita te ves más bonita. You know, you look pretty when you say nothing. Is a translation. So maybe she should follow that example. You know, since she's Mexican, she'll understand what I mean.
All I have to say is that, like I said, a good buddy Rip Rogers has this classic saying. I've said it a few times here: never miss an opportunity to shut the fuck up. And some of these people never miss that opportunity to do so. I mean, like I said, I can only see this getting worse before it gets better. Like, this is not something that I think is going to go away. And I think what Hollywood is fearing is that Melissa's going to start a movement within Hollywood where if this whole thing with Israel and Palestine like really starts going south, which it very well could, especially in the next, you know, who knows, couple of months, couple of years. But if this thing really goes downhill, she could quite literally start a movement that will turn a lot of people in Hollywood against Israel and goes towards Palestine. And if you're Hollywood, if you're the powers that be, what are you going to do? Because like I said, you created this monster and now it's out of control. So
Well, I mean, it's not just that. I mean, she's also trying to work the audience against her. There's no guarantee that the audience will rally to her and say, "Oh yes, you know, she's going off about the martyrs, so we need to support. We need to go to her movie so we could support the Shaheed." No, that's nonsense. She could be alienating more people who just don't want to see her movies. Same issue that a lot of people had with even big names like Jane Fonda, Barbara Streisand, Charlton Heston. These people alienated fans and alienated viewers through their political viewpoints and their openness about them. This person who is not a name, I don't know who she is, and we all keep like calling her Barbarella. So why are we going to care what she thinks about anything? Again, I always ask, why do we care? Why does anyone care?
Which is funny because Jane Fonda was Barbarella.
Yes.
And now Sydney Sweeney is going to be Barbarella, hopefully.
By the way, they look. I will say this: I noticed it a couple weeks ago. That's who Sydney Sweeney reminds me of, is like young Jane Fonda. And I know that people will throw things at me for saying that, but that's Jane Fonda was actually kind of attractive, late 60s, early 70s. Like in Clute, I thought she was incredible.
Yeah, she was
before
a
she
sex
became.
The problem is
I'm
that
not going to go that far.
She's still trying to be bangable in her 80s. Like, that's the problem.
Well,
yeah,
she
Aidan
is.
For Brady. Aidan for Brady, right?
And Book Club. She was an infomaniac in both of those.
Mm-hmm. Melissa Barberheimer. Yeah, that's exactly right. The movie that she's supposed to be coming. When is this movie coming out? It's coming out in April, so it's not officially out yet, but it is a Universal Pictures film, and she is the star in that movie. It's called Abigail. It says a group full of kidnappers who have to kidnap the most powerful underworld's figure's daughter for $50 million. But of course, they find out that she's a vampire child, and then she starts murdering them one by one. So that's the film that they have coming out here in a few months. And if she continues to get heat for this Palestine situation, it'll be interesting to see the marketing of that film, because I don't believe there's a budget set for that one just yet, but it does look like maybe that is too expensive. I mean, it is Universal, so they probably throw a little bit of cheddar onto that one, but it doesn't seem like something that's like $200 million, like a certain film that we're going to talk about here.
Now, just real quick, do you think that she's going to convince people to support her cause just because, it's Baghdad Barbarella or whatever she is, that she's going to, yes, I now changed my mind. I will no longer support Israel, and now I'm all in, from the river to the sea, because Melissa Barbino Baba Wawa is now good. Whatever. I'm Mexican. I can get away with it. You're only a quarter, so you can't.
That's
the problem.
So.
A quarter. I'm full. I'm 100%. All Latino here.
Are you?
I'm only a quarter tarnished, exactly. No,
we don't
I'm
accept
all the way
you.
tarnished because I'm a mutt. Yeah, exactly.
We don't accept you. You're not
That's
right.
And then here's the other problem, and it's a very, very noticeable problem. Like I said, this is the one that Hollywood has created, especially with actresses. Actresses in Hollywood are very, very stupid, and I don't think that's a stretch to say. I don't think that's a stretch to say it. Like they're dumb. They're really dumb. But then again, the industry bred them to be dumb because they want the dumb ones to essentially, prop off their narrative to the world. So they want them to be the ones to talk about, let's talk about intersexual feminism and about how men stink and how we're always oppressed. So it's like, yeah, let's make Brie Larson the biggest actress in our entire industry, because she'll pirate all that stuff because she never went to school. She dropped out of high school to become an actress. And then here we are again with another dumb idiot who graduated from NYU, went to the Tisch Arts in NYU. So she know that she's like completely controlled and molded brain and smooth brain, if you want to go that far. And like I said, this is the type of people who they want to be in the forefront of Hollywood, because they'll know that they're great puppets. And the only problem is that they go so far off the reservation that you can't reel them back in. And all of a sudden they start saying things and noticing things you don't want them to. And all of a sudden we have a international crisis on our hands. And all I have to say is like, good luck. This is your problem.
That's an absurdity, because did you not see America Ferrera's brilliant monologue capturing the crisis of our time that will win her an Oscar? All right. I mean, obviously she's not dumb. How dare you, sir? How dare you?
It's very, very interesting. I tell you that much right now. But oh man, that we'll bring that up later. Maybe we'll bring it up on the bar room next week. Like I said, there's still a couple more days to go before more stupidity happens. So this whole story could get worse before it gets better. Before we get into the film of the night tonight, I have to somebody brought this up to me. I didn't even know this until like literally a few hours ago as I was like typing up my review. But have you heard about the Taylor Swift connection to this movie? Has anyone heard this story yet?
I've heard. I heard something, maybe like a rumor, or like, something like she wrote it or some bizarre idea. Or inspired it. I don't know.
So the Matthew Vaughn here did the film. Like I said, we're going to talk about this film Argylle here in a second. But like I said, apparently there's this whole conspiracy theory behind this film. Matthew Vaughn based this story on this character named Elly Conway. And apparently this book that he inspired this whole movie on is an actual book that exists by somebody called Elly Conway. The only problem is that when people started digging into who this woman actually was, no one can find any verification that she actually exists. So the thought process here is that, okay, somebody wrote this book in a pen name and nobody knows who the real person is. And for some reason, there was this big internet conspiracy theory that it was Taylor Swift who wrote this book, to the point where both Bryce Dallas Howard and Matthew Vaughn had to respond to allegations that Taylor Swift is the real Elly Conway. I'm not making any of this up. This is from last October, so I had to like dig back into this. I had not heard this beforehand. So quick little summary here. Taylor Swift fans think that she might be behind Matthew Vaughn's upcoming spy movie Argylle due to the mysterious offer in the book of the movie being based on the presence of Taylor Swift Easter eggs in the film. It says that the author of the book. Keep in mind, I didn't notice any Taylor Swift Easter eggs in this movie. It's probably because it sucked, but that has nothing to do with that whatsoever. The author of the book, Elly Conway, had limited online presence, and her first Instagram post coincided with Taylor Swift's birthday, adding to the speculation. And fans have pointed out various Easter eggs, such as the cat in the movie and the poster that resembles Swift's cats, misspelling the word Argylle, and with Ellie's name included, and Bryce Dallas Howard's resemblance to Swift's character in her short film. So apparently a bunch of psychotic people put this whole thing together and thought to themselves that, oh, Taylor Swift must have been the woman that this whole film is essentially based on here. And it just goes on like a complete diatribe. I mean, do we really want to run down why people think that Taylor Swift actually wrote this film, or do we have enough of this nonsense to go through here?
In fairness, since this film is so poorly written, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that
she actually wrote this.
Yeah, that Tay is responsible for a convoluted mess that we suffered through. I love that idea that because the first Instagram post was on Taylor Swift's birthday, that somehow is proof.
Who would even know that? Like, what psychopath? What if the first thing they thought of, oh, this is Taylor Swift's birthday, it must be about her?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I share a birthday with Ozzy Osbourne. That does not mean that I bite the heads of bats. That is the most idiotic thing. No, people will believe all sorts of things, but no, I'll say this, and this is going to sound strange. This is reminiscent of the mystery of the author of Treasure of the Sierra Madre. That was a pen name, and it was never fully established who wrote it. So there's a greater mystery there than there is about who wrote this. But I wish she would say that she did. I wish that Tay would just admit that she wrote, so we could blame her for something, and so she could be punished for giving us this monstrosity. But I'll let Roberto jump in, because I'm sure he has thoughts.
No, just no. Just no.
Okay, so I just gone.
First of all, it's not that deep. It's a terrible movie, and who cares? Even if it is, who gives a shit? So no, I no.
Okay, well,
Taylor Swift fans are insane.
I've just gone even deeper into this rabbit hole here. Apparently, the whole conspiracy theory is based on this video that came from TikTok, who is alleging that Taylor Swift is the person here. Let's see if there's any truth to this. Watching this TikTok video, this could end very terribly, and I'm all in for it. So let's see the argument.
Lovers, stop what you're doing, because I just came across something so big, astronomically big. We're coming back to this. Some of you may or may not have heard of this new movie coming out on February 2nd called Argylle. It's a spy thriller starring, pause to read, all of these people. Look at this summary. The upcoming spy movie Argylle is based on an unpublished fourth book in a series by real author Elly Conway. The first book in the series will be published before the film's release. The film aims to reinvent spy movie cliches and takes a meta approach by showing an author writing the book within the movie.
I just want to say here, we're like 50 seconds in. Can I get to the damn point already?
It's a 5-minute thing.
Yeah, I know. Like, I thought that we should at least start off with something here, and there's like.
I just realized that chick from the beginning is Dua Lipa. I was like, why does she look familiar?
And a real.
Okay, I guess this is where she makes like the argument now about like what this is about.
Real writer is portrayed as a writer in this movie by Bryce Dallas Howard, who has red hair, right?
Get to the point.
And also carries around a cat in a cat backpack, like we've seen Taylor do several times. So that was the first thing that caught my eye. The second thing,
oh my God, this is like worse than the Rick talks. Like, get to the damn point, Jesus Christ. We'll just leave this conspiracy theory alone here, because it's like we're halfway during the video and like hadn't made a single point. So too long, didn't read. People think that Taylor Swift is the writer of this whole nonsense. Go ahead, Rick.
This is Charlie Day in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when he's like that meme when he's trying to tie all of these things together.
Hmm.
Who would spend their time trying
Especially
to
when
tie it?
you're not good at it. Like, just leave the conspiracy theories to like Alex Jones, someone who can get to the point in like less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's just I don't know where they get this. I don't know how much free time people have. As my mom would say in Spanish, don't they have anything else to do? Que no tienen nada más que hacer. Don't they have anything
Does
else
that
to
woman
do?
look like someone who's married? No, she clearly has nothing else to
She
do.
looks like she looks like a cat lady, and tying like, oh, she has a cat bag, which I didn't even know was a thing. And so Taylor Swift has one. Ergo, you have proof that Taylor Swift wrote this. I thought this was written by someone else, and it was written strictly for the screen.
Yeah.
This is so insane. All of these people have nothing else to do, and they come up. It's because they worship Taylor Swift.
Mhm.
Metaphorically, if not literally, they worship her. Her word is
Yeah,
gospel.
I think there's some people who quite literally worship Taylor Swift at this point. Like I
Yes.
said, she's absolutely just taken over like our world. Like, she's taken over football now. You have the entire complex of the sports media coming out this week saying that, oh, if you don't like Taylor Swift, you're an idiot. How can you not love Taylor Swift? She's great for football. Every single person on like ESPN, FS1, NBC, like just all in on Taylor Swift. Got to be all in on the movie side. It's like, I'm just sick and to death of all these Taylor Swift conspiracy theories. For the love of God, like, just end it.
We should send that lady that clip in Amsterdam of her getting run down.
Yeah, and it's funny. I cheered that last year when she was nowhere near. I mean, touring maybe, and her fans were definitely like blown. Taylor's fans on Twitter have always been a rabid group of whatever idiots. But
Psychopaths.
yeah, but the last year, especially with the inclusion with the NFL and dating Travis Kelce, she's just gotten unbelievably annoying. The fact that she's
and
everywhere.
Person of the Year.
I don't understand what the thing is. Like, why is she even a valuable person to look up to follow, to listen to? She's a fucking idiot pop star who sings about being bad at relationships. I don't understand how that's relatable, except that most women are fucking morons, by the way. Sorry, ladies. Literally my best friends are women. Most of the people in my life are women.
No,
I love my mother. Yet
with the Melissa
yet,
story. I mean, yeah.
Yet my mother, I was like, she's a propped up, fake, completely full of shit pop star. Why would you believe anything she says? Well, she's still a person. Like, okay, that's fine. My mom's a boomer, and that's fine. And she lets me. She's taken care of me my entire life, so I owe her opinion. But it's like, really, you don't see through this fucking bullshit. You don't see through what this obviously is. This fucking idiot pop star singing about the most banal love songs imaginable. It amazes me that anybody would fall for it.
She's had
And
more boyfriends than the New York Knicks have players. Like, let's be very, very honest here.
Yeah, I mean, even Jake Gyllenhaal, I think that was a thing when she dated Jake Gyllenhaal and then wrote that fucking song about him. And it's just
We'll never get back together.
And what's funny is I'm behind on Family Guy, right? There was a fucking Taylor Swift Family Guy episode in 2016, basically calling out what she is inherently, what she is. And still, and I know it's Family Guy, it's a joke, whatever, but it's like they painted the perfect picture. That's what she does. And she's been doing it. She's my age. She literally went to my rival's high school in Pennsylvania. She went to Wyomissing High School. And so it's like, this little specter, and I know I'm being a narcissist now, but this little specter following me around, and it's like Taylor Swift is like my generation's like big thing. Oh, no wonder we're fucked.
Yep.
Well, she's your generation's combination Ella Fitzgerald and Cole Porter. One of the greatest singers and now
do you have like a reference that's in like the last 40 years at least?
No.
You could have just used like Madonna or like some other harlot who's been around for like the last 30 years. It's like,
well, I'll try to think. Okay, she's your combinations. I guess I don't know. I have nothing.
Or you come back with like a top hat and a monocle and be like,
I might actually need a monocle because one eye is a little weaker than the other.
Yeah,
Point is,
like I said, even
go ahead.
even like, you know, like I said, this whole thing, like conservatives this week were trying to defend Taylor Swift because it's like, oh, we're being too hard on Taylor Swift. She's not like she's Megan Thee Stallion or anything. It's like, you guys are so fucking dumb. Like, I just swear, I just hate
Yeah,
everyone.
I saw a little something where Rob's evil doppelganger Matt Walsh was on her side. So I mean, why?
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
there's a lot of issues with Matt Walsh too, so you know,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah,
He thinks,
Matt
he thinks
Walsh looks
anime
like
is the
Rob.
devil, so
Yeah, Matt Ross was like Rob if he just got like a hairpiece, which he probably did anyway. If we're being completely honest with ourselves.
Yeah, well, you know, they're both slightly cranky and cantankerous, contrarian. So yeah, but we love you, Rob. Just for that.
and I know what he's saying. He's saying like there's a lot of hip hop artists that basically promote debauchery at the highest levels in multiple ways, and that's fine. But the idea that Taylor Swift should have a following, where again, I've been sharing the meme for almost a decade, where it's the picture of her saying, "When I fall in love, I think it should be a really big deal," and then you see the Google search of every one she's fucking dated, and it's
and
just
the
like
problem-
you're so full of shit, lady. Holy
But
shit!
did you not? I mean, we saw the videos of her concert film the first week, where all these people were almost dancing in the crazed ball-like euphoria, on their knees, worshiping and crying. It was completely unhinged behavior that she will inspire. But all will be forgiven again if she will go to the Super Bowl and sing the Black National Anthem. You know, that's what we need. She will unite us. And then think of the people who will now vote for either Biden. I assume Biden, if she tells them to vote for Biden, because people can't think for themselves. They need Taylor Swift to think for them. It was your generation, at least it's not mine.
I want to say things that I probably shouldn't say, but it's so irritating at this point. I'm fighting hard not to say these things. Just know none of them are good. So that's all I have to say about the Taylor Swift story. So yeah, Taylor Swift is somehow connected to this terrible movie that we're about to talk about, which we can go ahead and get talk about right now. It's a movie called Argylle, and it's starring Rob's boy Matthew Vaughn. Now, I will say this to start off this whole thing. Matthew Vaughn, I had to like go back and look at his filmography to see if there was anything that I actually liked that he has done. Now, you can say what you want about the first Kick-Ass movie. I thought it was pretty entertaining. A lot of people thought the first one was entertaining. Second one, not so much, but that whole thing had a whole mess attached to it, as we talked about here. A lot of people liked X-Men First Class. I didn't really care too much for X-Men First Class, so that's just kind of how I feel about that whole situation. Then you have, what was it, Kingsman, The Secret Service, the first Kingsman movie. A lot of people, including myself, like that movie. I got to be completely honest with you. It's been about 5 years since I've seen that movie. If I were to go back, watch right now and rewatch that film, it probably would not hold up as well with time. So if I'm thinking about all the movies that I actually like that's probably still consistent, I would say maybe Kick-Ass at this point, because if you look at Matthew Vaughn over the last 10 years, his whole career has essentially been Kingsman. He's been trying to recreate that magic that he had with the first film. The only problem is that every new Kingsman movie since then has been less successful than the first one. And then even this one, he tries to shoehorn a Kingsman connection towards the very end, but we'll get to that here later. But this is essentially Matthew Vaughn's career at this point. He's done this here. He has this film called Argylle. He brings back a lot of the same people who he has worked with in the Kingsman movie. So he's bringing back Samuel L. Jackson. He's bringing back that creepy looking Sophia chick from the first Kingsman movie, the one with the sword for a leg. A couple other people attached to it too. This is another thing, just a quick little side note. I don't know why you would bring back those actors if this is supposed to be in the same universe as Kingsman, because they played completely different characters in the first Kingsman movie. So if this is all a shared universe, how are Samuel L. Jackson and Sophia playing two characters in the same universe? That doesn't make any sense. Like I say, I didn't think that one through.
It's a multiverse. It's a multiverse.
Oh, okay. So any bum can just get a multiverse now. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
I do want to actually read something real quick. It's not long at all, but this is what Matt said. This was back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
People want fun and escapism at the moment. Look at the success of Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Nolan kickstarted a very dark, bleak style of superhero escapism, and I think people have had enough of it. Well, Matthew, Christopher Nolan just made probably the best movie of the last a couple years with Oppenheimer. So maybe shut the fuck up. And look,
Mhm.
I'm definitely biased against, or I'm biased in favor of that kind of more adult, more, I don't know, dour, more, gritty worldview. Like I actually liked some of what Zack Snyder did. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was without its issues. It certainly had issues, but I prefer that greatly. So I completely rejected that when I heard that. That was almost a decade ago. And since then, now I know I haven't seen the Kingsman movies, so I can't really comment there. I heard the last one wasn't very good.
No.
He tends to do this kind of thing, this frivolous, nonsensical sort of winking at the camera thing. Maybe he didn't do it as much in the Kingsman movies. I don't know. This was objectively terrible. Like, in terms of having like good taste, right? Like, I liked The Beekeeper. I liked Operation Fortune. I liked examples where you can have fun with the action movie or the action comedy movie. This had absolutely nothing going for it. Sitting there, I was amazed how slow this movie runs. It's 2 hours and 19 minutes. It felt like a 3-hour movie.
Oh yeah, there was no reason for this movie to have
I
been the length it was.
I found out this is a 2.5-hour movie as literally the opening credits started, and then it was already too late by that point. So, so how do we even start with this? Like I said, so everything Vaughn has been doing here is all going back to Kingsman, and you can see that they were going for a Kingsman vibe in this film with the style, kind of the comedy, the action. Like, we've kind of done this goofy spy film here like to death, especially with Vaughn here in the last 10 years, but we're doing it again here. And this is the setup here because there's a lot of things to unpack here with this whole setup. Like I said, Elly Conway, who's played by Bryce Dallas Howard, is a spy novelist. She's working on her 5th book, but she can't figure out an ending here. So when you see the opening part of this movie, it's like a story within a story, essentially, because you're seeing like Henry Cavill and John Cena and what's the singer name? Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. Okay. So you see them in the film, and the film's kind of centered on them, but then of course they pull back the veil, and it's like, oh, this is all just a story that Bryce Dallas Howard's putting into play here. So from the first, when you first see the angle, you think to yourself, okay, there could be something interesting here because they're giving you like a basic spy setup here, but the story is going to be told kind of within, like I said, within like a third person perspective as well as like a first person perspective as well. So if done right, you could actually have something there where you're kind of blurring the lines between like reality and fiction or fiction and nonfiction. And it seems like maybe they were heading that way, at least in the first 20 minutes. And then you find out very, very quickly it's not heading that way. And then by the time you get to the halfway point where they give you the reveal, the entire film completely falls apart here. But like I said, you start off, I think, decently enough with the whole Cavill Cena thing. And then you get more into Elly's character here. Of course, she has writer's block. She's on a train. So it's like, I'm going to go back home, try to figure out how I'm going to finish this film. And she meets Sam Rockwell's character, who is a secret agent, a spy, I guess you could say. And of course, everyone on the train is trying to kill her. And there's shots being fired, there's bodies being killed. No one seems very concerned about all of the bullet holes and the breaking of the train and all that good stuff. It's just like, we're just gonna completely pretend like we didn't hear any of that. That's a whole another conversation for another day. But this is our setup. It's like, hey, Elly, your books that you're talking about, all these things have actually happened, and now everyone wants to kill you. So let's figure out what's going on. And this is how we move forward here with the film. So let me ask you guys this, and obviously this is not a good movie, but I did feel like the first half of this film had something there where it almost felt like we were getting teased with a better movie that never happened. Do you guys feel that way? Did you just hate this film from the very beginning? I'll start with you, Rob.
Yes. I remember you saying that it was, it basically wasn't bad up until the twist. And I was thinking to myself, no, it's bad. No, it's bad. And then the twist happened, and I was like, okay, it's even worse than I thought. Holy shit, this is a movie I've dreaded watching for like, I don't know if it's 6 months, but ever since the trailer came out, it was just like, oh, I'm going to fucking hate this, aren't I? I did not realize how much I would fucking hate it. Look, the train scene reminded me of Bullet Train, but just somehow worse. That's another movie I hated that came out a couple years ago. The action choreography, it felt airless. It felt inconsequential. It doesn't matter. I'm going to dispose of these guys, no problem. Take up time, take up space in the movie. I mean, the fighting scenes really added nothing to it. And I know that this is in there for narrative purposes, but Bryce Dallas Howard's character is like a nothing. She's just like a simple-minded girl who doesn't think anything of this, and there's no interiority to her character. There's no character depth or detail. Which again, I'm not going to blame it being an action comedy or whatever, but there's no reason for me to care about this character. It's just like she's on this sort of ride with Sam Rockwell, and the parachute out of the train, and it badly done green screen. And so yeah, there's really just nothing here to grab onto to keep your attention or be entertained by it.
I will say this just real quick, and I'll go with you, Rick. It's like you're right with what they said about her character. The problem is that they had an opportunity to do something with that. Like that could have worked if they had focused more on, hey, look, she's kind of bland and boring and vanilla, but it's like it's the world that she has in her head that's like the interesting like part of the story here, right? So it's like they could have pulled like the contrast here. Like she's created this entire world that's just like completely over the top and amazing, but her herself, she has like no personality to it. So it's like she's kind of like using this story as an outlet for her personality. But like I said, they didn't even decide to do that. They decided that, oh, we're gonna make her a super spy halfway during the movie, and then that's we'll get to that portion here in a second. But Rick, what was your thoughts on at least the first half of this movie? Did you hate this immediately, or when did you turn
Yeah,
against it?
I hated it pretty much from the get-go because I know that it was so exaggerated, and Cavill, channeling Kim Jong-un's hairstyle was so overdone, obvious. I don't I just sat there, and when we got to the part where she's doing her book reading, I just said, I can't believe anyone would want to read one book, let alone be so enthralled with this series of this combination. Was it Jack Reacher, James Bond? It's basically this character is like the illegitimate child of Reacher and Bond. That's what you got from this bland, boring character. There's a reason I never liked the Vince Flynn, Mitch Rapp books, because Mitch Rapp is pretty uninteresting, boring character. But there's nothing there. When it got to the bullet train sequence, and yes, I thought the same thing. I thought this is typical of Matthew Vaughn, the way he's made all of these his action movies, where it's supposed to be very frenetic and frantic, and you've got the pop song playing. And I spent most of the time wondering, what is this song? I know this song. It sounds familiar. And I thought it's not interesting. It wasn't well done. I didn't care. And the whole thing where she flips between Sam Rockwell and Henry Cavill is like, is she like really insane? Why is she seeing Henry Cavill in here? And he's like, in one moment you see Sam Rockwell, he's beating up on the people. The next one you see Henry Cavill and these two girls are kissing him. It's like, and when we get to the twist,
That's
yeah, I thought that was dumb.
that's the one thing. Just real quick, it's like they never really like. It was so confusing how they did that, because, like I said, it's like they went from Henry Cavill's character being like this avatar for the main character, and then it's like they shifted to like Sam Rockwell being the avatar for Henry Cavill. So you think that, okay, well, he's the real life person who's playing like this whole thing, and then of course we get to the twist, and I guess you can go ahead and finish what you were saying here, because then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, turns out she was Henry Cavill the entire time. It's like,
yeah,
what?
with the twist, it's like she always imagined herself to be a muscular guy, like who would tower over and just be catnip to all these women.
But
Didn't make
doesn't
any
it
sense.
feel like an AI generator? They threw Total Recall and oh shit, I'm gonna completely blank on Fight Club. It's like they took the split personality thing and Total Recall and made a really like a reductive piece of shit version with some like Austin Powers, James Bond spoof shit in there. That's literally what this movie feels like, where you're just watching it and it's like they're throwing this crap, these disparate parts of these other movies on screen.
What what they could have gone with this movie is, instead of making her the Argylle, instead of making her the actual Argylle, and I kept calling her R. Kelly because I couldn't be bothered to remember the real character's name.
Kelly Reichardt,
Rachel Kelly or whatever. I kept just saying R. Kelly because I just didn't bother. I didn't care. I thought, why don't they just make her a novelist, and she gets caught up in a real life spy comedy, but she uses her knowledge of her books and of her research and all that to be part of the investigation, instead of just, oh, it's this shocking twist that she is Argylle herself. That's not a shocking twist, especially since it was announced, what, 3 years ago, that that was what was the plot. That
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up because you retweeted that tweet from 2021 about the plot of this film, and it's like, why would you give that away and then build the movie on essentially this being the surprise twist when you already told people when you announced the movie that this is what the film was going to be about? So it just seems very, very dumb. You would give away your spoiler and then craft your movie pretending like you haven't already given what the actual spoiler is.
Yeah, I mean, when I thought like, oh, we're going to introduce you to the real Agent Argylle, I was thinking, oh, are they going to bring back maybe like a Bond, like one of the living Bond actors, kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference, maybe even Mike Myers, like a spoof of a spoof with Austin Powers. No, they went with a, oh, it's really R. Kelly or Rachel. Kyle or whatever. What I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what her name is. We're gonna
Chris
have
Kyle's
her.
wife, yes.
Yeah, and we're going to and yeah, your father is going to end up being like her nemesis, but we're going to pretend and uh, dragging, was it Catherine O'Hara
Then it was
into
like,
this.
surprise, she's not really his father. Or she's not his
It's like,
father. Oh, okay.
it's
Well,
like
there goes
it's
that
not
twist.
making, it's not making it, nothing is making any sense. It's trying to be far too clever for its own good, is what I kept thinking.
This was my biggest problem with the twist. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't see it coming because we all saw it coming. But here's my problem. And look, Bryce Dallas Howard, I'm going to say this. Maybe Rob has a different opinion than me. I'm not going to sit here and say that she's ugly. I'm not going to sit here and say that she's unattractive. However, she was completely miscast in this whole thing because let's be completely honest with ourselves here. She's a little on the chunky side. She's gained just a little bit of weight here in the last couple of years. Now, apparently, she's had a kid or two, so that's had a part to do with it. Fair enough. But let's be real here. When they revealed that she is the super spy, she is the real Argylle the entire time. By the way, that whole reveal was just stupid. It was just like, oh, you were the real Argylle. Get it? Agent Argylle? It was you the whole time. And I was like, that is so stupid, the way they revealed that whole thing. That's on the side. And then get to a point where it's like, okay, well, clearly, if you look at this woman, she's like a middle-aged, like chunky, like white woman. Like clearly, she's in no shape whatsoever to be a super duper spy. So you think to yourself, they could have at least played into that, being like, okay, maybe she was a spy like 5 years ago before she had her accident, quote unquote. But it's like she's been living like as a housewife or like a cat mom for the last 5 years now. She's in no shape whatsoever to go back to being the super spy that she was, right? And there's like, nope, she's gonna go right back to being the badass superheroine that she was in the very beginning. I was like, okay, come on now, really? Like this woman looks like she needs to be at a PTA meeting, not a fucking
Isn't that a bit like Nobody? Only that was much better. It was like the suburban mom or dad in Nobody's case that turns out to be a super agent. But I actually,
well, no, it was actually a bit in the film. Remember, what was it, Black Widow? A couple of years back, where it's like where the what's the guy's name? The guy who was in the red, the one that plays Black Widow's quote unquote father. It's like when he finally like gets back into the suit, it's like, oh, it still fits, and like it clearly doesn't still fit. But it's been a while since he's actually been like that character or whatnot. But they don't even like give it like any kind of credence to that whatsoever. It's like, okay, well, clearly you're not in the same shape that you were in like beforehand.
Yeah,
But
Jacob, there's one thing. I don't know if I retweeted someone who commented that it was a positive that we had a quote chunky female as the action lead, I guess for representation. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I think trying to make her be sort of it just did not decide. I mean, is she supposed to be like a glamorous agent or like a super shrewd super spy as she figure skates on oil I don't.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But it's like every time I'm watching this movie, now that I think about it more, it's like this is a role. I think this is the direction that you were going to go with. This is a role that's more fitting for someone like Karen Gillan, right? Someone who can actually play like the comedic aspects of the character that they were trying to portray here, and be like, well, if we have to flip this thing on a dime and have her be like a superhero, I mean, yeah, she's still like a 100-pound like six-figure
Okay.
model, but at least it'd be far more believable than having Bryce Dallas Howard. And I wanted to get you guys hear this real quick too, because I thought about this immediately, and I'm not sure how many other people saw this when they did her transformation, where when she goes from being, like I said, cat lady to super spy, and they gave her that blonde hair and the haircut. Didn't she not look exactly like Julian Bell? You guys know who Julian Bell is? If I pull up a picture to you, you guys know exactly who I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right, try, because I was falling asleep at this.
No, the whole film like fell apart after the reveal because it was stupid. But
No,
every time I saw her, I thought about her. You guys don't remember? She's been in like literally every comedy movie you could think of.
Yeah, I know who she is. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I think
she's
I
usually
know
like
who
a
she is.
soccer mom or like some busybody getting in
Yeah.
people's business. Yeah. Mhm.
Well,
Or
like,
as a comedy as like some kind of drug addict or something like that.
Yeah, she could play Jennifer Coolidge's daughter. That's all I could think of. No, I really didn't see anything there that was of interest. There was just so much stupid with this movie.
Well, and
just-
look, I know that okay. I know the part that really one of the parts that really got me was, after the changeover where they're like I forget where they infiltrated some party.
Mm-hmm.
And they do the fucking dance from the beginning, which of course Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
Yes, Henry Cavill is a man in good shape, and Dua Lipa is a very attractive woman in good shape, and that makes sense. See, that's the fantasy. That's the whole point. You can't have it both ways. You can't have this, this is the real spy shit, and then have like a mediocre white woman be the like drop dead, unstoppable action hero. Oh, and she weighs 5 pounds apparently too. You fucking frauds. Go fuck yourself. Seriously. Seeing that fat bitch get fucking lifted above Sam Rockwell's head. That shit was so unbelievable.
Wait a
I
minute.
was yelling.
No, she didn't.
real quick.
Wait a minute. Didn't she lift him up at a certain point as well?
They did it both ways.
And they also did that little homage to Dirty Dancing. As all of this rainbow colored smoke that even shapes in the forms of hearts is coming out. I didn't know what the song was.
Whoever made this does not deserve to make another movie ever again in their life.
Here's why this was embarrassing, because not only did they start the film having what's her name, Dua Lipa in the film in that dress at the very beginning of the movie, then you turn around, you put Bryce Dallas Howard in the exact same dress. It's like somebody did that on purpose.
Putting a silk hat on a pig is what we call it.
Oh no, I mean, but it was so overdone and cartoonish, and I just kept thinking, yeah, Bryan Cranston is all he does is just yell at monitors. He's supposed to be very menacing, and it doesn't work. But the problem isn't even the fact that you guys think that she's chunky and that it's not it's unbelievable that she would be able to lift someone who admittedly is probably shorter than she is, because Sam Rockwell is not a tall man. It's the fact that the comedy lines that they're both trying to deliver are not well delivered. They're trying to be funny. The lines are supposed to be funny, but their delivery is so unfunny, and almost
the audience did not laugh at anything, like at any of the lines. Even the part that was supposed to be funny when she's like, my mother's, I was talking to my mother who supposedly has a British accent. The delivery was all wrong because like people didn't even know they were supposed to laugh. And that's the other thing too that I think gets overlooked a lot in comedy is timing is a bitch. Timing is everything. And if you don't have it, it's incredibly cringeworthy to try to sit through that.
Mm-hmm. Like unless you're Norm Macdonald, you can like force a joke out of bad comedic timing. It's not going to work for you. And it definitely didn't work in this film. And like I said, when we got to the point where we got to the inevitable reveal, where we get to the vineyard and Samuel Jackson is in this film. By the way, with all of the big names that are in this movie, everyone feels like they completely just phoned in their performances here. Like the trailer made you think like this film was going to be more epic than it actually was, but Samuel L. Jackson completely phoned his performance in. Was it Bryan Cranston was barely even like a whole. He was barely even a presence in the movie, even though he's supposed to be like the main villain. Like he didn't feel like he had any real place in this film whatsoever. Like I said, the whole thing with Cena and Cavill, which I'll address here just in a quick second, but that whole thing was a complete bait and switch. They made you think that this was a much cooler movie than it actually was. There was nothing going on here. You get to the halfway point where she's at the vineyard and they reveal to you is like, oh yeah, no, you're the spy and you're the one who's gonna have to save all these people and blah 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 yada yada. At this point, I completely like checked out of this film. Like when they put her in that ridiculous looking dress and like went forward with the whole thing, it's like, yeah, you're the hero of this story, so go out there and be the good guy again. I just thought to myself, I'm so checked out of here, and it never recovered from me. Like I was literally on my phone. Like, by the way, Rob, when he was watching this earlier today, he was texting us in the group chat while he was watching the movie.
Yeah.
I almost felt like that me and him tapped out in the exact same point of the film. we got to there. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, it's like, this is what you guys have. Like you essentially, like I said, you essentially bait and switch people into thinking this is a better movie than it was, and this movie effing sucked. It's like there's no other way to throw around it.
Well,
Did you guys notice? Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I would say I disagree slightly. I think Sam Rockwell was trying desperately to sell this. It just didn't go over. But Bryce Dallas Howard, this is just an absolutely dreadful performance where all the line delivery was bad. It's like, I don't believe any of this. I feel bad for Catherine O'Hara, who really deserves better. And again, when Bryan Cranston pops up as her dad, it's like, Jesus, this is all just falling apart right before my eyes. But for me, you know what? I think I held out longer than you guys. The part where I was all but wanting to scream and throw things at the screen was when we get this weird thing. Was it vascular corridor? As how she manages to save him. I'm going,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, no, this is just too stupid.
Which is,
and
they ripped off that idea. If you guys remember the film Focus with Will Smith and Margot Robbie that came out about 10 years ago.
Well, you
I
use that
didn't
in your
see it,
intro.
yeah.
I saw it, and you use it in your intro.
Yeah. So it's the movie like right before they did Suicide Squad. This is why all the rumors were swirling that they were actually like banging at the time, which may or may not be true. Who knows? But there was a part towards the ending where she's supposed to kind of double cross him or whatnot. So I think his father, quote unquote, shoots him in the heart, and you can like see like blood coming out like immediately, right? And then like all of a sudden he like starts patching him up. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I didn't actually shoot him in the heart. I shot him in this right corner by his ribs, and if I plug it in at just the right time, he'll survive. Like, stop doing stupid stuff like this. Like, please stop. Like, stop making us believe that, oh no, I can perfectly shoot him right in the corner of this heart that I can't see. By the way, that I can't see, but I know if I hit it just at this right moment that he'll somehow still survive a point blank gunshot wound to the chest.
And of course, she was inspired by, quote, a fan who wrote this to her for one of her books, and that fan turned out to be the person that she bases a character on. A character that we don't,
who should have been dead too.
Yeah, and we barely meet her, and we meet her at the end. And it's like, oh, how wonderful that she's back. It's like, who the hell are you? I was like, who the hell are you? I don't care about you. And this whole thing about how she's being controlled by the
Division.
Little what do you call the box, the music box? Yeah, there, the music box.
Pro.
Yes, it's like, that is so idiotic. It's so idiotic, and she can't smash the guy's head in. I mean, I just like, I hated this, and I love the fact that Samuel L. Jackson, he must have enjoyed making this because he was just getting money off of applauding, and then applauding when the information is being uploaded. Applauding.
They bring. Yeah, they bring Samuel L. Jackson in halfway during the movie. He's supposed to be, oh, he's the good CIA agent. See, there's good guys in the CIA propaganda. And then all of a sudden, it's like they're trying to get the spy information to him so that he can, I don't know, expose a division. That's kind of his whole plot point. So he's literally sitting there in a chair for half the movie watching the Lakers game, and that's his entire contribution to the film. It's just waiting for somebody else to give him information that so that he can expose it and take all the credit for being a good guy. This is what they do here, right? And then, like I said, the only time that this movie is somewhat interesting is when you're shifting with Cavill and Cena, which is weird because they kind of pervert that whole relationship. Because as we turn out, that Cavill is basically her version of herself, and then Cena is her version of Rockwell, and then they have this weird like homosexual type relationship towards the end where it's like they're supposed to be partners throughout the whole thing, but it's like they're clearly lovers, even though that Henry Cavill and Cena don't actually like make out themselves. It's implied that they're in love via these two characters, and I'm like, what are we doing with this entire film? It's like none of these ideas make any sense.
No, Jacob, you're being far too generous to say that that was even an interesting relationship. It was played so poorly. And granted, Cavill can't act, so of course he's going to play it poorly. The only thing he's good at is when he's just winking at the camera and showing off how gorgeous he is. But that wasn't a believable relationship because the acting, if you want to call it that, is so exaggerated and forced. It's obvious that it's not real. I don't know how you for a moment thought that this was even a plausible beginning or relationship. As for whether they're lovers or not, well, I leave it up to you why R. Kelly thinks that she imagines herself as a muscular man and imagines Sam Rockwell as John Cena. I leave that up to you. I don't understand it. But no, you're being far too generous. People always say I'm generous. No, you are far too generous with this idea that Cavill and Cena were good. They're not. They were terrible because everything about them was terrible. And to be honest, I didn't even know. I still don't know who Dua Lipa is.
Like Sam Rockwell and Bryce Howard have no chemistry whatsoever. You guys noticed this a couple of times that when they tried making out, like corporate times towards the end, they look so uncomfortable trying to kiss each other. It's like they look like teenagers trying to make out, like teenagers who like never kissed before, and they're like going in and they don't know, like, should I put my tongue in or should I take my tongue out? They didn't know what they were doing, and we're supposed to believe that this couple has been in love for like so many years. It's like they look physically uncomfortable having to make out with each other in this film. Like, there's not a single thing about this movie that actually worked.
Well, yeah,
I will say one thing that I actually did like, before the movie ruined it, and I almost forgot about it. The little monologue that Sam Rockwell does, trying to remind Ellie who she is in terms of like what's in her heart. I actually thought that I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice moment. I actually did, but that comes down to Sam Rockwell trying to sell a piece of shit, and not barely having anything to do it with. I'll say that, and I will say the overuse of point of view shots. Oh my God. Point of view. It was just like, okay. It seemed like redundant and egregious at a certain point. And then, then they threw in that weird thing about the COINTELPRO, the trigger that makes Ellie turn, want to kill Sam Rockwell at the, there was so much shit that they threw against the wall without considering, like, oh, hey, we need to explain this later on, or at least before the end.
Do you know when she gets that music box, and when Kevin O'Hara gets that music box, and then it programs her to kill Sam Rockwell? Do you know what it reminded? Well, no. Let me tell you what it reminded me of. Reminded me of Naked Gun. When Priscilla Presley has that wrist and she says, I just killed Frank Drebin. That is what it reminded me of. And that's when I wanted to start laughing, but not because I thought the movie was funny, but because you're really borrowing from Naked Gun, from a spoof, from a really funny spoof. You want to make that into this. I almost expected her to say, I must kill Wiley or whatever his name was. I don't care. I just thought that was hilarious. I just thought that was just so dumb. I mean, granted, not as dumb as when she's figure skating on oil and able to kill and do all that shooting all around. But yeah, that was like,
okay. But just like, and I know you brought it up already, but the pink and purple smoke along with the dancing and the gun firing to Snow Patrol cover of crashing cars or whatever that fucking song is called, Calling All Cars or whatever the fuck it's called. I sat dumbfounded in a dark theater and I'd wondered if my soul had evacuated my body, because that's literally how cringeworthy and the douche chills running up my spine. That's exactly what it was like. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I'm not talking about 2024. I'm not even talking about the last 24 years, this century or whatever. This is hands down one of the worst. Like, the choices made here are so embarrassing, so poorly done, so poorly. I can't even say it's executed, because the initial idea wasn't even good. You know what I mean? So these people had to do this. They were like, this is a good idea to make this piece of shit. So that moment, I was absolutely frozen out of the rest of the movie. I mean, it was bad before that. I could not imagine how bad it was.
This was right before or right after that oil slick scene.
I think right after. Yeah.
Right after. That's when I pretty much I had pretty much abandoned all hope for this. But at that moment, I thought, what am I actually watching? Why did anyone think that this was funny? And worse off, why did anyone think that we were going to want a sequel or a trilogy or prequels or crossovers, that they're all planning on this? This is absolutely insane. This is insulting to my intelligence, as she's, oh, she just turns a couple of knives, sticks them on her shoes, and then she's able to ice skate, or I guess.
Why wouldn't you just
oil
set
skate.
the oil on fire? Is that
Yeah. No, I mean, they had to stop shooting because, oh no, that's what he told them, hold your fire. But she still goes all blazing. Oh my gosh. I was just aghast at just how awful. It just kept adding one horror after another, after another, after another. And then when I how bad it was that they turned the lights on as soon as the credits started rolling. And I know that there was a mid credit scene. They they had to turn the lights off quickly, and the crew had to rush out of the theater again, because, oh wow, there's actually more to this horror. And
by the way, I know somebody mentioned that there was like a mid-credit scene or something like that. I didn't see it because I literally left as soon as the credits started going. Like, I was just done, so I didn't even bother to
there
watch.
was.
But like I said, the mid-credit scene, like I said, towards the end, we find out that Henry Cavill is actually a character that exists in real life. So it's just like, so this is at least a person that she had based this whole character on, even though it's supposed to be herself the whole time. Like, nothing in this film makes any sense whatsoever. But then the mid-credit scene was supposed to reveal that Henry Cavill's character had worked with Kingsman in a previous universe, a previous movie. So like I said, this is all connected to the Kingsman universe. And once again, we have at least 3 people who were in Kingsman who are in this movie. So how are we to explain that they're playing 2 different characters in the same universe? Like, nothing about this film makes any sense whatsoever.
No, I don't know. Was it you left, and I don't know if Rob left as well, right?
Yes.
As soon as the credits started rolling. You missed a part where you see Argylle, Book 1, the movie, coming soon. That's what appears on the screen after that little scene where we get Angus Argylle getting something in the case at the Kingsman bar or the pub. And I just wanted to scream, no sequel, no prequel. Apparently this is supposed to be a prequel, and I even think it might be in pre-production. Why? Or actually might be filming. Here's something that I want all filmmakers, current and future filmmakers, to know. If you want to make a sequel, you better have a character whom people are actually interested in, and a story that cries out for more adventures.
This is what happens when movie studios think that they're going to make a franchise without first finding an audience. Like, they think that,
Yes.
oh yeah, we're going to plan 5 movies about this before anyone's even seen it and like the first one. So keep in mind, Apple paid $200 million for the rights for this film. So that's the amount of money Apple paid for the rights here. I don't even know what the actual production cost is. I can't see any way this film makes its money back. I just can't.
I can't believe anyone would want to watch another movie or a prequel to this, to see Henry Cavill's first adventure when it's not even Henry Cavill. And even then it doesn't make any sense, because if it's supposed to be him, at the end of the movie he has kind of this vague Southern accent, like he's trying to sound American, and it's not quite working.
I told you, man, the British actors, they all go to that southern accent because I guess that's like the easiest one for them to pick up on. So
Well, yeah,
everyone
you would
tries to
think,
sound like Foghorn Leghorn when they come over from across the pond.
well, it's done great for Daniel Craig because people
Yeah.
think Benoit Blanc is actually a good character who can solve crimes when he can't do anything. But it doesn't make any sense if this Argylle is supposed to be American, but he's doing this in a British setting. Nothing here makes sense. Look, you don't plan out a whole series without actually getting the first one right. This is not a film that is going. There's no one. I know that your generation's Roger Ebert loved it, and I know that other
I
people
don't even know who
apparently
that
love it.
guy is. I'm gonna be straight
Yeah,
up. I've never
yeah,
heard
yeah.
of him before.
Well, yeah, he's the one who thought Spider-Man was one of the, Across the Spider-Verse, one of the greatest films ever made. Um, I know that there are people who love it, but who's going to really want to, after they watch this movie, in a serious question, who's going to want more adventures with this character? Now that the big secret is revealed and she is R. Kelly, who's going to want to watch more of her story as she develops another super spy assignment? They can't use Henry Cavill because that whole thing is over with. It's not going to make any sense. Even it's not going. It doesn't make any sense to begin with. But who's going to want to see more of her movies? Who's going to want to see more of this character? Who? Seriously, seriously.
I just want to say here that my prediction basically was true, which was like, I think last week you brought up that we were going to be watching it, or it was on some stream, and I was like, oh yeah, the brilliant mediocre white lady is the hero.
It's literally
and when
a fan fiction for like literally 40-year-old wine aunts thinking that, oh yeah, I could be a superhero badass too.
And just watching it play out, sitting there in the theater today, watching it play out, it was just like my worst nightmare come to life, because
And they
it was
thought
just,
that this was going to be the beginning of a franchise.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a trilogy, and that's also in that new.
And I'll say this:
article.
Apple, paid $200 million for this. They paid $200 million for Killers of the Flower Moon. That at least made $156 million. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not going to make its money back probably, but Apple's also not a traditional studio, so it's like one of those things where it's like, can they afford to take the L on this one? Yeah, they can. I mean, Apple famously has so much cash on hand, but I really hope they decide against making any more of these movies, because this was terrible. Now, I wanted this to fail. I did not. I mean, and looking at how it's doing at the box office, it's not doing great. So I hope this fails spectacularly. I hope they don't make any more of them.
And now that the twist was revealed 3 years ago, but it's only resurfaced, people are like, no, why are we going to watch when we already know? And it's a dumb twist. There's no, I honestly don't know if they are having a pre-production for a prequel or already filming it. God help them, because there's no way that anyone's going to want to watch this. That's going to be I think is going to be unreleasable, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. This is just a boring movie. It's far too long. There are no performances. It doesn't make any sense on any level, and it's not going to inspire any sequels or adventures.
And then here's the other thing. Somebody pointed this out too. Apparently, Bryce Dallas has actually lost a little bit of weight since the film has like been filmed. So she does look better than she did in this movie. I just think to myself, why wouldn't you lose weight while filming? Like, why would you do it before filming the movie rather than lose it after the movie comes out? Because now you look better in the premiere photos than you actually do in the movie itself. Like, did nobody think this through, like, at all?
Jacob, because you need representation. You need to have, or quote, chunky women, quote,
middle age,
inspire, I guess, another generation of chunky women. And I don't understand there was some sort of, first off, I don't see any Easter eggs for Taylor Swift or anything, but apparently they did something about her running in heels. I don't know. I didn't notice. I might have been asleep at that point.
I didn't pay enough attention to that.
Yeah. But again, I kept thinking, if they had just made her a real quote, real person, not the super spy that we find out, and she uses her expertise in writing all of these fictional novels to get involved in a real case, you might have had something like a fish out of water comedy. Because people forget, when Tom Clancy wrote The Hunt for Red October, people thought that he had gotten secret information has been fed something. In reality, he just did a lot of good research that was
I just
open
want
to
to
the
point this
public.
out. Like, you do realize this film basically like enables pretty much every Steven Seagal movie that we've seen like over the past 20 years now. Because I mean, if a fat middle-aged woman can be a super spy now, what's stopping Steven Seagal from doing the exact same thing, right?
Well, he's too busy being a sheriff in somewhere in Russia under Putin. That's all I
Yeah.
know.
Half his
I mean,
stuff, half Steven Seagal's moves is just throwing people through windows, tables,
that's all he can
walls.
physically do anymore. It's like-
Well, he did one movie with Michael Caine, so there's that. I think
Yeah.
on Deadly Ground. On Deadly Ground, I think, which made Siskel and Ebert's 10 worst. I think.
Well, I haven't seen Under Siege since I was like 7 or 8, but I remember that being badass. But I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to this movie, like I said, you know, the more I thought about this movie, the more I hated it, and the more I put things together, the more I hated it. This barely escapes being a 0 out of 5 for me. I'll give it a 1 out of 5, and I think I'm being generous by giving it a
You
1.
are.
That's pretty much what I feel about this film. Like I said, it is one of those movies that's just my brain thinking to where it's like I can kind of like move things around and like shift the focus a little bit. And there is a good movie to be had here, but it just seems like they made every wrong possible creative decision from this film from top to finish, that nothing about this movie worked at all. Like, this whole thing's just a mess. So yeah, 1 out of 5 for me. Rob.
Yeah. I said this to the other group chat I'm in, but I think this might be the worst movie of 2024. It's only the second movie that I've seen this year, but some of the missteps, some of the choices that were made are so embarrassing, so foolhardy, so dumb, so divorced from just basic storytelling principles that it might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I can't give it a 0, but it's definitely going to get a half star. And the sad part about this is there are talented people who worked on this movie. Like, it wastes its cast, it wastes any ability to create a character that you care about or are interested in, or any stakes, and it's not funny. So it's the worst. I mean, even as an action comedy, it doesn't work as an action or a comedy movie. It is a complete 0, fall flat on its face kind of movie that again, I'm surprised they released it. I'm surprised somebody watched it and was like, oh yeah, this is ready. People are going to want to see this. So I hope it fails. I hope they don't make any more. And I certainly hope this is the worst movie of the year, just because I don't want to keep, I don't want to be back here every week and it's like, oh, well, I was wrong. They're all just bad.
All I said is that last year when I saw House Party in January, I thought there's no way there's 5 movies worse than this. It ended up being at number 7. So
yeah. Look, I'm going to dive in and I'm going to give it the 0. And I gave a 0 to Mean Girls. That made me angry. I've seen 4.
Did you even give it 0 the Book of Clarence? Because I think this movie's barely better than the Book of Clarence. So
yeah, look, I've seen 4 movies this year, and The Beekeeper is the best one.
Yeah,
Mean Girls was, and Book of Clarence, and now this, all have been really bad. And I think the Book of Clarence barely edges out Argylle. That's a very low bar.
This film is the second worst film I've seen so far, and Book of Clarence for now is the worst film I've seen so far this year.
Yeah, and I think I would rather watch Mean Girls. This movie is a total mess. I cannot believe that anyone's ego is so big that they thought that this was going to inspire a sequel, a franchise, crossover universes, a whole universe, and people would be excited to see this. I genuinely wonder if the people who praise it, like your generation's Roger Ebert, are either insane or perhaps you're right. Perhaps he is a total shill that is being paid. Because I cannot believe anyone would sit here and think that this was fun and this was funny and exciting and like it just knocks it out of the park. No, No, there was. I will have to admit, unlike in Rob's theater, there were some mild laughs in the screening that I went to, but I just sat there thinking, they don't. They're not making this. I mean, they're just kind of going through not even the motions. It's like almost they're desperate to get out of this. This was just a total disaster. I hated it, and I just, yeah, this is a zero. This is a zero, an
Yeah, I
absolute zero.
mean, like I said, I'll say this. I mean, we are in that period of the year where, as far as new releases go, they're just generally not that great. I mean, January's kind of historically been like the cinema's graveyard when it just comes to movie releases. So I've only seen like 7 movies so far from 2024 release, and I can easily say The Beekeeper is the best movie that we've seen so far this year. But like I said, it's just because we haven't seen that many movies, and like I said, this is not the time of the year for great films. But then again, the way that Hollywood used to work is that, okay, they'll give you like the movies that they're trying to get rid of in January, but just wait till those blockbusters come out, and then they'll turn this whole thing around. Like, what are the blockbusters this year? Like the Furiosa movie? Is that what I'm supposed to be excited to see
June
this year?
2,
June is
probably.
going to be.
Oh, whoopee! Woo!
I'm
Can't wait for
excited.
June 2.
I'm excited. You two are wrong. I'm excited.
Well, no, I'll go. I mean, I can't say I'm excited to go see it, but I'm definitely looking forward to it just as an event and something to see.
How
But
long is
I
June
asked to
2?
leave work early so I could see it.
the
course
two
you
the
did.
2 movies I'm looking forward to are small indie movies that failed to come out last year, which is like The Hitman, that Glenn Powell, Richard Linklater movie, and what is it? The Bike Riders, Mike Nichols. Yeah, he's not fucking alive. Jeff Nichols' bike rider movie with Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Somebody else is in there too that's really good. It's the actress, and I can't remember who it is, but she looks unrecognizable. So I was like, okay, that looks interesting. But those, I mean, it's
2
just 2
hours
smaller
and
movies.
46 movies.
I'm
36 minutes, I should say.
Yeah, I might even be excited. I might even go and see one of the last movies that came out last year was also with Glenn Powell. Anyone But You. I have a feeling for some reason that might actually be better than anything I have seen except for The Beekeeper. Yeah, Beekeeper is like the best one I've seen all year. It's like there's
I will say this. This is one last point I want to make about this film here. I think we kind of touched up on it a little bit earlier. Matthew Vaughn loves making long movies, and I think if you look at all of his Kingsman movies, have all been at least like 2.5 hours long, maybe a little bit more than that. This is a film that was 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and this is a movie that needed to be like an hour 40 minutes tops. Like there was nothing in here to keep this going for the time period that they went with. Like I said, by the time they get to the reveal here and the twist, it feels like the movie just comes to a screeching halt and it never recovers. It's like, oh, okay, so we now know that she's the spy. So, okay, we now have like hour and 30 minutes left of this film. It's like, I'm out. I'm just gonna stay here, just click on my phone for the rest of this movie because there's nothing else to pay attention to. So,
no. I mean, I think I was nodding off, but it was. I just didn't care, and I felt it was insulting my intelligence. It was just, yeah, it was just unbelievably bad. And yeah, if there's a sequel or a prequel, I defy anyone to want to go see it. I would love to meet the person who wants to see more adventures of either the real Argylle or the fake R. Kelly or whatever. Like, I don't know. I generally question the intelligence and the sanity of some people who really want to watch more of this.
well, speaking of more of this, so next week, because we're off to a great start here in 2024. Our next movie next week is a little film called Lisa Frankenstein. Have any
No.
of you guys heard about this one yet or seen the
Ye-
previews for this one yet?
Yeah, I saw the previews in the half hour that they had previews for this, and no, I don't want to see it.
What is with Catherine Newton perpetually being a teenager for the last 20 years? I mean, I saw some werewolf movie she was in 2006. 2006 was literally 18
Well, she's
years
only
ago.
like what 26 years old, so I mean,
How
she's
is
not
that
old.
possible? Okay, I don't know how that's possible. She literally was
Unless she's lying about her age. It says she's only 26.
okay. Alrighty. Yeah, that's insane. Okay, so whatever. But yeah, this is what Diablo Cody wrote the screenplay for this.
Yes.
I mean, they've done this how many times? The whole like, oh, my boyfriend's back. You know, the zombie movie coming back from the life
I can't
thing.
believe you know that movie.
Oh yeah, no. What Philip Seymour Hoffman is in that actually
Oh
in
my
like a bit role.
gosh.
And I only it's whatever. I spent my early 20s watching a lot of what I would call cult films. You know, just like, oh okay, sure. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I've never seen the series, but I love the movie.
This film has like 80s B film written all over it, which could be a good thing. But it could be if they do it right. But I mean, like I say, it also feels like this is like a Nickelodeon films movie in a way too. So it's like
Well, doesn't it
it's very
star one of the Disney stars, like an ex-Disney star?
yeah. What's his name? Cole Sprouse,
Or
who's
one of the Sprouses. Are they
yeah,
twins? Yeah.
the one who's still working, I guess. I mean, he was in a movie that I actually did like a few years ago called 5 Feet Apart. I thought he was pretty good in that one, but outside of that, like I haven't seen him in like any other movies like outside of that. So I guess he's doing okay. Question mark?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Sorry, I got Catherine Newton mixed up with somebody else.
Oh.
Okay, I was about to say,
I'm
it's
sorry.
like, I was about to say, how long has she been around? 'Cause it's like, she's like,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a film that we're reviewing next week. Lisa Frankenstein is our movie for the week. So there we go. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be doing Madam Web and Bob Marley. So I'm probably going to stick Rick with the longest of those two movies. So whichever one's longer, that's the one you're gonna be watching. So
Well, can I just get the Bob Marley
No.
one? No, I'm
No.
gonna watch it whether you want me to or not.
well, you
'Cause
can
I
do that,
because
but
I would prefer, yeah, at least I can close my eyes and just jam to the music. That's all I really would care about.
Pass the joint.
yeah,
I've
Madam
never
Web
do-
is
I've
2
never done
hours, so you
that.
can watch that one. There you
Well,
go.
Hey,
well,
I'm
maybe my friend would want to watch it because he likes watching the comic book movies.
I'm
Maybe
cautiously optimistic because I have no idea why Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney.
Mhm.
Dakota Johnson literally said, "I don't know if it's good. It was all filmed on blue screen."
Oh
I'm
God.
like, that's a great endorsement for your fucking movie, you dumb bitch. I mean,
Well,
don't get me wrong. I like her.
hey,
I like Dakota
Y-
Johnson, but it's
y-
like, come on.
you know, at least she's honest. I will admire that. You know, if we get the twist that the real Madam Web is her grandmother Tippi Hedren, then I will be excited.
Sydney
I don't.
Sweeney
I
comes off as just like a super naive, dumb blonde who doesn't exactly know the game she's gotten herself into yet, which is glorious because until she's been fully corrupted, like this is a very interesting time in her career, and I say enjoy it now while you can.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we could see her in the extended edition of what was that? Anyone But You. So apparently they're re-releasing it and adding more footage, which we desperately need.
And I can't express this enough, okay? And it's very weird to say this, but I'm pretty immune to the charms of like famous hot women. Like
Mhm.
it's pretty like I'm pretty good at it. And I cannot, for whatever reason, I just whenever Sydney Sweeney comes on screen, I just get the biggest smile on my face, and I feel like I don't know, like I feel like a kid or something. So and
I
I'm a
will say this.
35-year-old man saying this about like a woman who's at least 5 to 7
Look,
years younger than me.
I know I just buried Hollywood actresses in the first part of the show by calling them all stupid, but at the same time, I listened to at our interview that Sydney Sweeney did maybe like a year or two ago, and she was talking about how when she got her first big like movie gig or TV gig, the first thing she did was read her contract and make sure that she wasn't getting screwed. And I was like, you know what, I respect that because you already sound like you're off to a much better start than a lot of other cohorts who are absolutely just pants on head retarded. So. Maybe there's something.
So
Maybe there's something deceptively to her where she's coming off as kind of like a dumb blonde, but maybe she's actually a little bit smarter than we're giving her credit for. So,
well, then maybe in that case, Madam Web will actually be good. We don't know.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. So that's what's going on. Next week we're watching Lisa Frankenstein. So I'll go ahead and shoot this one over to you guys. Promote anything you got coming up. Rick, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be reviewing more movies, including what garbage we just saw, and finishing up my Echo retrospective, just catching up on more reviews, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, Rob, what do you got coming up?
So I'm gonna have to write a review on Argylle, and gonna have a real hard time doing it because what do you talk about, really? What do you talk about? So look for that here over the weekend or early next week. My backup Twitter is up right now. My current one is suspended. Might be permanently suspended for something that's really dumb. But that's the modern Twitter. It's a lot like the old Twitter. So, but yeah, just follow me on my backup there. I'm trying to do regular streams on Wednesdays now. Finding out that you need a lot more bandwidth to host versus just joining a stream. So that's fun to kind of work around. But I'll just be going through my personal movie collection sort of alphabetically, just as a way of like having something to talk about while I collect some, more content to talk about and reviews, things of that nature. So, just keep an eye out for that stuff over on my Twitter. And Rob Motto Movies is also my YouTube handle. So please go follow, subscribe. And yeah, I'll have more stuff up soon.
Yeah, isn't it funny? Wasn't the whole sell of Elon buying Twitter is that, hey, at least during election season, we won't see as much censorship as we saw during the last one. And it's like, wow, we haven't even gotten there. We're already censoring, going for like Taylor Swift and other nonsensical things. It's like, I can only imagine how the election is going to go around. So, what else they got coming up? Monday night, we're going to be doing episode 28 of the Bible Lens podcast. I want to say it's 28. We're going to be answering the question if Catholics are actually Christians and going in depth in that whole discussion. And I'm probably going to talk about this a little bit more on Monday night, but I'm working on doing a separate channel and doing actually a Bible Lens separate channel so I can have all of the podcasts up on that one, break it up into little content streams as well. So I'm working on doing that. It's probably going to take me like a month to transfer all the stuff over and break it all up. But by this time next month, we should have a separate channel for that as well. And I might move the stream to Sunday nights coming up here as well too. So there's a lot of changes we've made for that show. But like I said, that's what we're going to talk about on Monday night. Tuesday night, we're going to be talking about the Barroom podcast again. I know we're definitely going to have some discussion about Tori Wilson's comments because I got a whole lot to talk about that. And then, like I said, next Friday night, we'll be back here watching Lisa Frankenstein. And hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that film is at least somewhat endearing because, like I said, we're off to kind of a rough start here so far for 2024. We need to get something good coming out here in theaters. So that's everything that I got coming up here. It's almost like he's full of shit. Who knows, right? Who else do we have here? Cool girl, shout out to everyone who joined us here tonight. We got Cool Classic Cage, Rooftop Korean, Doba Fett, JEC, Spencer was obviously joining us here. A couple other people in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us here for another Friday night. We will see you guys, if not Monday, if Tuesday. If not, then we'll see you guys next Friday night. We're going to go ahead and get the outro, get on out of here. Adios, people. Night.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out!
You get the hell out!
Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James.